Hello everybody, and once again we are playing Kerbal Space Program. And we're going to go back to the game that we were playing Tuesday night. Hopefully have some more fun with it. Okay, let's see. I need the tracking station upgrade in order to be able to do certain things. Heat shield, fly by the mun. Okay. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go for the tracking station upgrade, even though it's going to limit my my funds a good bit, because it'll help me out with planning out my maneuvers later on. Now, since that one has no SAS, we're going to go for the standard command pod, even though it's heavier. And let's go ahead and add some fun science stuff to this thing. Okay, we've got that, and communicatron, and a containment unit. I'm also going to add in this storage unit down here because I really do need more power, since I can't generate all that much of it yet. Okay, that gives us 4 batteries there. I'm going to add another one there, and then 2 more onto the command pod itself. Hopefully this will give us enough power to be able to do everything that we need. Now, we're obviously going to need some maneuvering control for this thing, and ultimately we're going to need to be able to get back down, which of course means putting on parachutes. And I'm going to put in these radial mount parachutes because this sucker's actually going to be pretty darned heavy when it's coming down. I don't want everything to just explode when I go and hit the ground. Okay, now one last touch to the primary module, and we have a heat shield. Now this thing should be able to survive hitting the ground, we hope, but we'll find out soon enough. So, what we are really looking for here is a multi-stage system. We're going to need plenty of fuel for the last stage, both so that we can get by the mun and then get back. But we want to use the most efficient engine possible, which is going to be a swivel. And then we have the actual launch stage. Actually, this is probably going to be the the orbital correction stage for getting us to the mun, which is of course going to involve needing more fuel for that part. And then I'm actually going to want the most powerful engine I can possibly get on there. Now, all that I've got here is the thumpers, but I'm going to try to make do with just those and absolutely no real capability as far as reinforcing this thing structurally. So I'm going to add 4 thumpers. Actually, I want to move that a little bit lower. Okay, there we go. Got 4 thumpers there. And of course, we want some aerodynamics. Come on, there we go. And we're going to want the ability to hold ourselves steady, at least while we're in the atmosphere. Now, going to add 4 more thumpers here to help us really get the orbit good for intercepting the Mun. I know this seems like a lot of thrust, and it is, in all honesty. It is a buttload of thrust, but it's also a necessary thing if one intends to get to the Mun with these limited parts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add 4 more fins up here, even though they aren't quite as necessary. They'll still help with stability as far as the takeoff goes. Now, of course, this thing just looks absolutely ungainly, but, you know, that's half the fun of it. Because this is KSP, where structures are soft and the physics are more or less right. Okay. Now let's check our staging here. We've got those 4 firing there, but we really want... Okay, then those things let go. We're really probably going to want to have that sucker on there as well. But we need to be able to separate these at different times. So we've got that, and then that one fires, which drops away that particular section there. And then we'll fire those 4, drop them away, fire our swivel, and then we can drop it away just before we're ready for true re-entry. So, yeah, let's see what happens here. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. I'm going to go ahead and overwrite that. And let's see who we've got in the pilot seat. I actually want my most skilled pilot here, just to help out as much as possible. And off we go. Hopefully this thing won't twist and do weird stuff. Because yeah, you can already see it flopping around there. I'm going to turn on the SAS. And I'm actually going to turn the engine up to full to start with. And let's go. Yay, we're lifting off. I'm going to start backing the engine off a little bit here, just to try to save some of my liquid fuel. And we can already see that it is twisting around like all get out. Just as long as the thrust stays more or less right, we should be okay. One can hope. Looks like she's starting to settle out. Okay. Get rid of those. Turn up our engines as much as possible to try and fight the fact that we are pretty much slowing down, even though we're gaining altitude. That's mainly because we're barely pulling more than a G's worth of thrust here. Okay, come on, you can do it. Okay, now we get rid of that one. Go ahead and fire those 4 off. See if maybe, just maybe, we won't be able to run ourselves up into a somewhat decent orbit here. Although it's really not looking like it at this rate. I'm gonna try to adjust our orbital angle a little bit so that we're a little bit closer to having a proper orbit here. And yeah, we're picking up speed now. The fact that we're still in the atmosphere means that we're picking up a lot of this plasma sheeting. Okay. Now we've actually already got a pretty good speed going here. And we've got a pretty good apoapsis as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that engine all the way down, but fire it off so that I can control it from here. Now, what you're going to see here is the fact that I decided to go ahead and upgrade that means that I can now add maneuvers to it. So, yeah, that's going to be one heck of a maneuver, isn't it? Yeah, now that we've got an accurate read on our actual acceleration, we can start to... I'm going to move that a little bit closer to apoapsis there. Okay, and I'm going to extend this out so it's about... Yeah, that looks good. That should get us the basic orbit that we're looking for there. And I'm also going to set the Mun as my target, so it tells me, yeah, my angle's pretty bad off because of that launch impropriety. See if I can't get that angle to work out a little bit better. Okay. Okay, 11, 10 degrees, 9 degrees, 8. Slow it down a little bit. Okay, we're coming down on 5 degrees there. And I really need to stop the angle adjustment so that it's not quite so far off of a node. But we got it down to 4.9 degrees, which is really not all that bad. And we've also got a target point here, which is going to help us out a lot. Now, the closer we can hold that target, the better off we're going to be. But the maneuver assumes an instantaneous thrust of 1,838 and 9/10 meters per second at that angle, at the exact moment of the maneuver. Now, one of the things that it suggests in the tutorial is that you split the difference there. But you also have to realize that you're going to be gaining a lot of... Oh, cool. I got the heat shield contract. You're going to be gaining a lot of acceleration as you burn fuel. So the most important thing to do is pretty much figure out where you're going to break even there. So I'm going to try to run this at about 35 seconds before the node, and then it should finish up somewhere around 30-35 seconds after the node because of that fact. Of course, I'm going to manipulate the time a little bit, and now we thrust. And the closer you hold to that target point, the better, or the more accurately it's going to reflect your planned orbit. And I am burning through fuel like all get out. Hopefully this will actually work. If not, then I may have to abandon this attempt and try something else. Okay, well, we've actually managed to cut off a lot of time here from our overall thrust. That's mainly because our ability to change our vector changes so much as we burn through fuel. I'm going to turn down my engines a little bit so I can get this as accurately as possible. Okay, there we go. Now we can go ahead and remove that. And since we're in a stable orbit now, I doubt if I'm going to have enough fuel to actually make this. But we'll see. Okay. See what happens if I come here, add another maneuver, and add... Yeah, it's not accurately reflecting my thrust capabilities at the moment. Okay, let's see. Okay, now we're starting to get intersection there, which is really not all that bad. We can work with that. So, see what happens if we go ahead and do this. And yeah, I know I should be waiting for that particular point, but yeah, you can see I'm not going to make even that maneuver. So I'm actually going to head back to vehicle assembly and see what we can do with this. Okay, I can't really do too terribly much more at this point, because I'm really limited in funds right now. So, one of the nice things about KSP is that it lets you do some weird stuff. So, what we really need to do is try to add more thrust at each stage, especially in the early stages of this. So I'm going to play it fast and loose with their structural and physics system and see if I can't kind of cheat my way into what I need to do here. We'll see. Okay, those things need to go there, and then those, yeah, we're doing good here. Okay. Yeah, and you'll notice that those things expand, which really jacks up your entire staging thing, but if you click on a single like that, it'll collapse the other ones back down so you can actually see what's going on there. Okay, let's see what happens now. And hope that the whole thing doesn't just tear itself apart, which may indeed happen, especially with how wobbly she is now. Okay, I'm actually going to set my yeah, you see, that's one of the problems that can happen there. Because I don't have the structural cross bracing that I need at this point, she can get more than a little bit weird. Let's see what happens though. See if our brave, intrepid pilot can't hold it. Nope, she can't. Okay. So, obviously we've made her too top heavy, which can be handled in any number of ways, including just taking off that particular booster section. But I am not going to get rid of those boosters entirely. I'm actually going to move them one level down, and hopefully I'll still get a similar result without quite so much of the flop around that I ended up with there. Okay. Once more onto the breach, dear friends, once more. Okay, activate the SAS. Now she's not nearly as floppy this time, so let's see what happens. Unfortunately, yeah. Might be a little bit too much power, in all honesty. See what happens if we turn these down by a little bit. Okay. And actually, I'm going to turn all of these down by a good bit up here, so hopefully it will give us a slightly better result. Okay. Launch. And then SAS on, liquid engines off, and launch. And of course that's not working either. It's probably the fact that I'm just trying to include entirely too much thrust here, and it's not perfectly balanced. Oh, what I wouldn't give for those little structural thingamabobbers. The cross-stress bracing is just absolutely wonderful. But I'm hoping I can just fiddle the... Oh, come on. The thrust to the point where it's not pushing quite so hard, and therefore I can still manage to get myself up there. She did better that time. She really did. So, let's try one more time here. Just turn her down a little bit more. As I said, she is doing better now. Yeah, that should do it. And I do believe that the Reliant gives me a little bit more vector control, so I'm going to go ahead and use it at full power. Try and hold myself to any course I can actually manage here. Yeah, now we're doing good. Now we are doing good. Come on, come on, come on. Don't. No. Come on now. Come on. I'm pretty sure that this kind of oscillation in any regular spacecraft would have done absolutely horrible things by now. Especially considering that I'm apparently hitting 5 Gs in the crew capsule. Okay. Yeah, she's holding it together a little bit better there, although I think I lost a tail fin. Yeah, we are really not doing too well on this flight. But hey, we know that we're going in the right direction. Okay, not doing too terribly bad, gaining a good bit of speed. Probably not going to get the heat shield contract like we did last time. Okay. Okay, we no longer have an engine. Okay, that one went very bad. But we are definitely going in the right direction. So, one more fiddle and we should be there. And yeah, I know, I probably could sit down and do the math, but that would just be boring. So much more fun to watch ships tear themselves apart. Okay, we appear to be doing pretty good right now. We have no unnerving oscillations at the moment. Okay, I spoke too soon. Okay, as I was saying, no really unnerving oscillations yet. Yeah, looks like we're not doing too terribly bad here. Okay, now let's figure out what's up here. Oh yeah, we're doing really good. Okay, now what happens if I just sit here and thrust prograde for a while? Yeah, we got a good read on that, so let's figure it out. If I just thrust prograde from where I am, then yeah, actually it should get me a halfway decent orbit. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn on the prograde lock here and just let her burn slow. Okay, got the heat shield contract again, cool. Yeah. Okay, and we are slowly but surely starting to gain the orbit that we are hoping for, I hope. Okay, and actually our orbital angle is a lot better now too. Now, it's just simply a matter of, I'd really like to get to there before I do any other major adjustments here. Okay, because I really need a proper orbit here. I'll let her go ahead and prime prograde again. Okay, periapsis. All I really need is about 100,000. I should be okay. Okay. Now, let's figure out what we need to do to adjust our orbital angle, which of course is going to give me endless problems trying to find it. So I'm just simply going to have to do it by eye. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that maneuver so I can actually get the the angle to come up, and I don't want to thrust anti-normal, and I don't want to fight my SAS the whole time. Okay, now let's see what happens if we do this. Yeah, there we go. We're getting a good angle adjustment on that. Okay, so that will actually make it a lot easier to do this later on. Now, the big thing right now is trying to get that separation down to the point where we have a true encounter. But I think if I do this right, I should be able to shift the orbit enough through a very basic maneuver, not using much fuel even, and bring the two bodies together without having to sit here in orbit for 5 or 6 years. Yeah, you see, you can actually pin that and thereby be able to pay attention to exactly how far your separation is. Now, once your separation reaches a low enough point, you'll end up with a change in icon like that. Now, according to this, I only need 2 seconds worth of thrust, but I don't think that's quite right. But I don't think it's too terribly far off either. So I'm going to get lined up on it and wait until about 10 seconds and then start thrusting gently. Unfortunately, we have time warp, so we don't have to sit through the next 18 minutes. Yeah, we're doing pretty good there, actually. In fact, I can just go ahead and hold that gentle thrust and let it work. And we will slowly see our orbit, which is denoted by this aquamarine oval, slowly start to match up with the projected maneuver orbit. Yeah, it's amazing how much actual thrust you need just to get to the mun. Just waiting for this one to become, yep, and then we can go ahead and remove that maneuver, and mun encounter is 2 hours away. Unfortunately, we're now dealing with our current orbit and the orbit after we encounter the mun. But since all I really need is a flyby at the moment, and I'm not trying to orbit, I think we're going to be just fine. Okay, now we are flying by the mun. So that takes care of that contract, which leaves us with only this hammer contract, which is a pain in the butt, really. But we'll get there. Now, see what happens if I do this number. Okay, we're actually managing to lose or at least adjust a good bit of that orbit, but I really don't want to do too much right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and let us fly by the Mun. Oh, and before I forget, since we are in space around the Mun, we have the opportunity for all this wonderful research. But I'm going to keep most of it. Okay, log temperature, keep that. And then observe the mystery goo, since we are planning on taking this ship back to Kerbin. Close doors. But one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and transmit the crew report. That way it gets it out of there and I don't have to worry about it just sitting around. Okay, let it retract the antenna. And we will simply warp through the next 28 minutes. Oh, you're going way too slow, dude. Come on. Give me some true warping here. There we go. Okay, now, as far as getting ourselves slowed down enough to re-enter Kerbin, I'm probably going to end up having to rely on some aero braking towards the end there. Actually, that's a really interesting orbital adjustment there. And I think I'm going to use that, because that's a really interesting gravitational assist. Okay, and that maneuver is 2 days away, so we're going to warp to 2 days away. And then we are going to get lined up. Come on now. Yeah, she moves really easy right now because of those two inline control wheels. Okay, now we've got just another hour's worth of... screw it. We can go ahead and do it anyway. Now hopefully... yeah, that should give me the kind of orbit that I need there. It'll burn off more speed as I come around the Mun one more time. And then we can adjust that further down, because I think that if we come around again, it's probably going to do bad things. Okay, so what I really want to do here is warp to there, which is 3 days away. Now, using the auto warp isn't really a bad thing, but sometimes it can be a little bit on the slow side. Okay, and we're going to encounter the Mun again. Only this time we're actually passing in front of it. Interesting. Okay. Now, what we want to do here is end up back out there at apoapsis so that we can adjust our periapsis properly to allow us to start aero braking towards the bottom. Because fuel, yeah, we are a little bit short on fuel. So what I'm actually going to do is tell her to point retrograde, and then I'm going to say warp here. Yeah, you see, if we came around one more time, we'd encounter the Mun again, and it would actually throw our orbit further out. So, let's see what happens if we give her just a little nudge. Yeah, see what happens? Is it doesn't take much right now to get us a lot of effect because we're so far away from that point that we're looking at there. Now, we want to nudge ourselves back down below 70,000 meters so that we'll start plowing atmosphere when we come back in. Okay. And apparently it's not going to let me just auto warp. Okay, what's the problem here, boys and girls? See if I can get another crew report out here. Actually, I can. Cool. So now we've got another crew report from there. Now we're going to go back to the map and yeah, we're actually moving very slowly right now. And by very slowly, I mean we were doing about 300 miles an hour. Okay, now I want to warp here. And then have her point retrograde. Because we're currently, yeah, just over 400,000 meters off the surface. And we're actually coming in at a pretty good clip. As you can see, we're doing over 3,000 meters per second, which is, in all honesty, over or nearly 7,000 miles an hour. So 10 times the speed of sound. And that's why we're going to skim the atmosphere very gently. Come on now. You can do it. There we go. Now we're skimming the atmosphere, and yeah, you'll see our orbit is adjusting because of this fact. And if we just burn a little bit of fuel right here, then we can actually bring our orbit down by a lot just while we're doing this. And hopefully still have enough fuel for when we actually need to stop. Okay. And yeah, we're headed back up out of the atmosphere now. Not doing too terribly bad, actually. We didn't get deep enough into the atmosphere to really cause any problems. Okay, now that we're... yeah, it's still... there we go. Still listing us as being under acceleration. Which, of course, I've had happen before whenever I was trying to do aero braking like this. Come on now. Sometimes you have to wait until you're really a good distance away from the planet before it'll let you start time warping properly. Come on. Okay, yeah. About 100,000 meters sometimes. And yeah, it does. It gets pretty darned annoying. But it works. And now we can time warp out. And our speed is dropping constantly until we hit apoapsis. At which point we then start speeding back up because we're accelerating towards the planet. And here we go. And we're at about 2,000 meters above the surface. And coming down on 1,000 meters above the surface. Come on now, you can get there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pin our fuel levels and turn the SAS back on, point it retrograde again, then turn it off until we start plowing atmosphere. Which should not be... yeah, it's already listing us as being under acceleration because we're so low. But yeah, you'll see even with all that extra battery power that I had on there and the alternators from the engines, we're still down to about a third of what we had at start. Okay, come on now. It won't let me time warp at all now. Okay, turning the SAS on, pointing us retrograde. We start plowing atmosphere, so we start thrusting. And just doing little things like this will actually get your orbit down by quite a bit very quickly. And hopefully still leave us with enough fuel at the end to be able to slow down enough without having to terribly rely upon our, oh, yeah, those things. The ablator too much. Okay, we're headed back up out of the atmosphere now. We're in suborbital flight. I'm going to maintain this time warp to try to get us out of, but I'm going to turn the SAS off. There we go. Okay, now we should be able to resume standard time warp, which means I'm going to once again auto warp us to there. Okay. Okay, not doing too terribly bad. Coming down past 100,000 meters. 90,000 meters, 80,000 meters, 70,000 meters, and turning the SAS back on, pointing at retrograde, and thrusting. Okay, turning the SAS off and time warping. Yeah, technically we should be gaining speed all the way up to periapsis, which tells you how much friction we're taking when we're losing speed prior to it. Yeah, and we lost about an hour off of our overall orbit there. Although if you'll notice, our speed is about 4 times what it was on the outer edge there. Okay, I'm just going to have to not use the SAS this time, because it costs me entirely too much power. Okay. And I am going to need a little bit of power at the end to really keep us on track there for the final approach. But if I thrust a little bit now, it should actually allow me to build up a little bit more power. Okay. And now I've just got to wait for us to get back out of the atmosphere again. But yeah, until later on, you're really not going to have the fuel for a lot of the maneuvers that you would like to do, such as just coming in and thrusting and slowing all the way down. So aerobraking is actually one of those things that you're probably going to want to do a lot of. Okay. Now, since I have so little fuel, I'm going to go ahead and adjust my orbit so that I'm a little bit deeper into the atmosphere there. Okay. And this should be my final approach. But unfortunately, I won't be coming down on the day side, which is going to make this insanely more interesting. Okay, screw it. Turn the SAS on for just a moment. Try and lose that roll. Okay. Coming down past 80, 75, 70,000. Okay. Now I actually want to slow down as much as possible here. So I am going to just fire my engines at full. And now they're gone. So we're going to get rid of that, because we all know, or we all remember what happened last time. Okay, SAS retrograde point. And my power is not really going to last too terribly long like this. But hopefully we can keep the parachutes from overheating. Yeah, the ablator's taking a lot from this. Hopefully we can keep anything from... Nope, we lost something. I have no idea what we're losing, because everything's just kind of covered in fire right now. And we are completely without power, which means there is nothing else we can do. We are just riding this one down. Okay, jettison the heat shield. And wait for us to slow down enough at this point. Okay, apparently lost my goo canister. And looks like one battery. It's not so bad. Really wish I wasn't pointing straight at the ground, but, you know. No. Okay. Managed to hold on to the materials bay, which is going to be the really important thing there. Okay, staging the parachutes, because we're down below a speed that's good for that. And pressure should be coming up for them to deploy soon. And it looks like we're coming down over water. And at 1,000 meters, we should also get full opening. Okay, there we go. But yeah, we're coming in nose first. Because we have no power to actually adjust that. But that's okay. We're coming into the water. We're only doing about 10 miles an hour, so it won't really hurt that much. And that would be the Mun Flyby, which we did get the heat shield contract doing that one as well. I may have to special build a craft just to cheat that one into existence. But we'll see what happens with the rest of our science, because we've already got 60 science now and what's on the ship, so crew report does me no good here, so we're just going to go ahead and recover. Okay, what we brought back gave us another 78 science, so we've now got 140 science and a good bit of money, actually. So if you'll remember, that ship cost nearly 40 grand. We only had 44 grand. So we got 190 grand from the various and sundry things that we did there. And she actually gained 2 more experience. So, cool. Let's see what we can get. Yeah, those struts that I was talking about earlier that really help to shore everything up and make it a lot firmer, that's what those are. Definitely getting those. That will make launches so much easier. The Terrier, insanely more efficient engine, especially for vacuum. It's what you really want to have on you when you're doing orbital maneuvers. Like what we were just doing, except we were using a swivel, which produces a lot more thrust, but uses a butt-ton more fuel. It may produce, 3 1/3 times as much thrust, but it uses almost 4 times as much fuel to do it. The Thud, it's really it's a radial connection liquid engine. It's kind of a cool idea, but I don't generally use them too terribly much. But this new fuel tank would also be a good thing. Now, the thing is, we've got 90 science. This one I'm not really going to worry about yet because I don't do space planes. They're just weird. The physics there is not quite right. Later on, I'll probably end up getting it anyway, simply so that I can get these liquid fuel fuselages, because they are useful when you're using an atomic rocket motor, because it uses only liquid fuel, none of the oxidizer that the rest of the rocket motors do. Okay, but in all honesty, I could look at stuff like this, where I could end up with bigger fuel tanks overall. I could even end up with a bigger fuel tank than that thing. And then, of course, you've got these really big engines, which are properly scaled to the Rockomax, and you finally get the kickback solid rocket or solid fuel booster, which is just an insanely powerful solid fuel booster. And let's see, space exploration, it gives you a little bit more science and some more cargo or crew capacity. The miniaturization stuff, that the Clampetron Docking Port Junior is actually really important for doing station missions later on, because you'll be required to have a docking port on there. And as far as station missions go, you'll really start to get them when you get the mobile processing lab, which is a very useful little thing to have. But it's also minimum 250 science away. Now, another thing that you may want to consider at this point is the electrics area, because that finally gives you the photovoltaic panels, which they're solar cells. And these ones are actually the crappiest of the crap solar cells. Okay, but it isn't until you get to here that you actually start to get some decent production. That's 1.6 per second as opposed to this one's 21 per minute. So yeah. But as of right now, I do believe that I'm going to go for that one, and then I'm going to let my other 50 science just kind of sit around. And let's see what we got as far as contracts. Into flight above Kerbin, blah blah blah. Science data from space around Kerbin. This one is extraordinarily easy, and therefore I'm going to go ahead and do it. Flight over Kerbin. Test the Rockomax brand decoupler landed at Kerbin. Easy one. And if they're willing to hand you easy money, then just do it. Okay, this one is actually orbit the Mun. Yeah, and that one's science data from space around the Mun, which is really easy to do. This one, as I said, that's orbit the Mun. Really easy to do. And actually, the next one in the story missions there. Now, first thing we're going to take care of is this Rockomax brand decoupler testing. That one still got almost a year to get it right, so we'll see what happens there. But I may eventually end up abandoning it anyway. Okay. Because if you'll remember, that one was our Rockomax brand decoupler tester from earlier. Back before it became an official piece of equipment that we could use. So I'm going to save that and go ahead and launch, just so we can get this one out of the way. And there we go. We are done, and okay, apparently I never cleared that one from earlier. But yeah, that's where you start to get a lot of your money, is these milestones. Because you'll gain a lot of money and reputation for milestones, and the way that I have this thing set up, it may cost me a little bit of reputation, but it gives me a lot of money each time. So it's always useful. Okay. Space around Kerbin, orbit the Mun, space around there. Okay. Now, what we can do is let's open up our Mun flyer that we had from earlier. Okay? Because we've got all sorts of different things that we can do with this now. But we're going to want to take off those suckers because we want to take, actually, we want to take it off about there. I'll move that stack decoupler over because we really want to replace that with a Terrier, but first what we want to do is replace those fuel tanks, because you notice we can actually have fewer fuel tanks here, which is, not, aside from simply being fewer parts, it's a little bit more stable in the long run. So now we can put that Terrier on there, which will give us a much more efficient fuel usage. And make sure that you turn your whole thing back up there. And we can put that back on. And slide that sucker back on there. But in all honesty, we're really going to want to take that off right now. Take that off and replace those fuel tanks as well with the better fuel tanks. Okay, now we can put those suckers back on there. And we have just about the same ship, but with better fuel usage, especially later on. And more fuel, which is going to be extraordinarily helpful. But let's see what else we've got to work with here. Okay? Because that's going to be an important thing. Ah, yes. These things, these strut connectors. Okay? They add a little bit of weight, yes, but what they also add is a lot of structural rigidity. So by having them on here, you gain a great deal more stability, especially during launch. So this will actually be a much more efficient overwrite because it because it won't be oscillating all over the place. It won't be jiggling around and doing all sorts of weird stuff. But that is going to be for tomorrow. Yeah, I'll let Jebediah fly this one because I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. I hope everybody's had fun. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good one. Bye.